There you go. Yeah, make it real. Because can you believe it? After hours of
Hey, Matt. Hey, Al, it's Nancy. I checked the bills. They're good.
Oh, thank you.
Well, I'm
Do they
right
notify
here.
you?
You know, I told them to call me when they had them ready, and I
Oh.
just walk across the street and do it. It takes me 20 minutes. So,
Okay.
until we start
appreciate
meeting in person again, of course, that's fine. They were fine. They were fine.
Good.
Okay.
I'll move that we pay them.
Thank you.
Can't do that yet.
Might second it. Okay.
Actually, that is going to be distracting.
Hello, all.
Hi, Victor.
How you doing?
Good. Good.
Mark.
There's my camera.
There you are.
Well, I got a new mask for you.
All right.
I like it.
Maybe it'll
I don't
stick
think
on your nose better. That would be good.
Let's try it.
Mhm.
Turn this off.
picture of Paul's house at night because he's got it lit up. So pretty.
All right, everybody. Looks like it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
Matt Bogira,
I am here.
Al Dyka,
Here.
John Leo,
Here from Harbor Springs.
Nancy Rondell,
Here in Harbor Springs.
and John Cox. John Cox, I saw your mug on there.
He's muted.
There he is.
Here. Sorry.
Spring.
Little delayed reaction. All right.
Hey, Mayor, do you happen to have a microphone or something by you? You're louder than usual. I don't know if anyone else can hear that.
No, just my usual computer setup.
Okay. I don't know if, is that all right for everyone else though?
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
There's
Okay.
just a little bit of an echo, but it's okay.
All
It's
right.
okay. It's all right. Just letting you know that you're a little louder than normal.
All right, I'll stop yelling. All right, we've got some minutes from the February 1st meeting that need to be approved.
I didn't see
Everyone,
anything wrong with them, so I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
perfect. Roll call, please.
Yeah, just so everybody's aware, on those minutes, we will make one small change that Amy caught. Just removing my signature, because I was not here for that meeting, and putting his name down there as the one that was actually here at the meeting. But other than that, I'll take a roll call. John Leo,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
John Cox,
Yes.
Matt Bogira,
Yes.
and Al Dyka.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Excellent. And the bill committee, Nancy was hard at work checking the bills.
I'd make a motion that we accept the bills as given.
I'll second that.
Very good.
John Leo,
Yes.
Matt Bogira,
Yes.
Al Dyka,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
and John Cox.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Very good. Now it's time for citizens' comment. If there's something on the that's not on the agenda that you'd like to speak to us about, this is your opportunity. Please state your name and where you're speaking to us from. Doesn't seem like.
Yep, I don't see any comments on YouTube either. We do have 6 people watching YouTube. The only public comment I received, I forwarded to council already. I believe we received it on Friday, the letter from Jim Coster. And that's the other public comments I received were related to agenda items. So we can talk about those when we get to the agenda items.
All right. Well, if there's no other citizens comment, we should move on to the city manager section.
Okay, great. So before I get started in section A, or item A, Mayor, if we could push agenda item F to next council meeting, March 15th. Jim Raymer's mom passed away, so he won't be here to give that update in closed session. So that's just the only addition. But other than that, I'll get started with item A, and that's a Little Bay live event. So the chamber submitted an event application for a concert series that's going to be sponsored by the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra. It's called Little Bay Live. This is something new they're doing this year. So they're proposing a series of events, which would be some outdoor performances by different performers on 8 Sundays throughout the summer at Marina Park from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. These performances will be free to the public. They're anticipating between 20 and 30 people being at them, give or take, depending on the week and what's playing as well. They're not requesting any city services, and we've classified this as a high impact event, and based on our new policy, because it's in the summer, it's a reoccurring event, and it will take place over in the downtown. So I wanted council to have the opportunity to review and approve it if they had any concerns. We have no concerns on our end. We just have the condition, as we have put on other previous events, that they follow, the organizers and the applicant follow any COVID-19 rules and restrictions on the gatherings and social distancing rules that may be in place at the time. And this is obviously subject to being canceled depending on if things get worse and the health department issues stricter guidance on COVID. But for now, based on the current rules and anticipating that rules might be the same or a little more lax in the summer, we foresee no issues with this. I know, Bonnie, I believe you're online if you want anything to add about the events and how they came out to do this event. And I think that'll be a good spot to leave us at.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Bonnie Culp with the Harbor Springs Chamber. The Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra reached out to me. They were interested in getting involved with Harbor Springs and putting on live events, and we thought it sounded like a great idea, and that Sunday afternoons would be a really wonderful time to have something like this. They are handling, they are paying their people. There's no fee, no to any of us, and it's really just a feel-good event that hopefully will gain some traction, and we'll be able to do more in the future.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Does anybody have any
One
questions?
quick question. Do you know where in the park they're planning on setting up?
Oh, thank you. We were discussing Marina Park. We're waiting for you all to see what your thoughts are and if this would be all right. And then I'm going to meet with the people from the Great Lakes Chamber Orchestra, and not yet. As the snow melts at some point, we would discuss where in Marina Park, but probably similar to where and how things were set up last summer for street music.
Okay. That's what I assumed, but I just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
And street music was located on the the southeastern end of the park is where the band would set up. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bonnie, I didn't see in the application, but you're not requesting electric, I don't think power service. It might be an acoustic event, or you don't know yet.
I don't know yet. There may be electrical. There may be
Okay.
electric that's needed. Thank you.
And so that's why that location usually is for performers, because that's closer to electric. But if there's no electricity requested, then they can obviously be located differently. But I guess if you have those details, when you get those details, you can just run them by us, as long as council is fine with the general idea.
Okay.
In the past, hasn't the community band usually set up right there by the gazebo?
In truth, I don't know. I was not here when the community band played. And I don't know if they're intending to play this year even. I've not had any communication with regard to that.
So, because they usually set up, I think, right behind the gazebo area in that little flat spot.
They do. That's where they set up.
So, might be something to look at. So, I don't see any problem with it. So, I would make a motion that we approve this.
I would second that. It sounds like a good event.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right, Al Nyka,
Yes.
John Leo,
Yes.
Matt McGarrett,
Yes.
Don Cox,
Yes.
and Nancy Rondell.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Bonnie. And Bonnie will be back in March for a few more event requests. So looking forward to that as well. All right, next item, 3B, formation of a Marina Park Committee. For quite some time now, city staff and DDA members were exploring and discussing ideas of forming a Marina Park Committee to essentially figure out how we're going to move forward with the space at the Harbor Master building that's sometimes known as the old tennis court area, or the Harbor Master green space, or Marina green space, or whatnot. We've kind of given it the name temporarily here as Marina Park. That push for that creation of committee stems from a desire to really improve the area's aesthetics, and to also start brainstorming on how we should use that space. Should it be used the way it currently is being used? Should we do something differently, and et cetera? So there's been obviously also some comments from the public as well about wondering what's going to happen with that space. And we think now is a good time to get a collaborative effort from different members from different boards, as well as from the public, on getting that process going. So I'll let Denny, our Parks Director, kind of take it over from here, but essentially he prepared a memo that outlined what the goals would be, the objective, what the committee what kind of members it would consist of, and tentative proposed timeline. And these are all just proposals. Like, for example, committee members, that's just a suggestion. Council can toy around with if they want to see different types of members, more or less members, but this is just our suggestion on how to get started on creating a committee. So Denny, I just want to give a little bit more insight into your thought here, your thought process and ideas. Denny, you're on mute. You're on mute, Denny. There you go. Ask to unmute. There you go.
Thanks, Victor. Yeah, so we know that like doing something at Marina Park is going to take a collaborative effort from everybody in our community, a lot of public input. I think that it also was really reflected on the surveys we've been taking. About a year ago, we did a Parks and Recreation survey, and Marina Park came up quite a bit. And then again, during the master plan, something to do with Marina Park came up. So we thought that we would get the ball rolling. So we suggested maybe we know that this will take probably over a year. A lot of it has to do with funding and going forward, but now's a good time to get started. So we came up with a plan to put together a committee that could come up with some strategies that we can run by you and the public, based on everybody in our community, to see what we can do something better at Marina Park. So I open it up to any questions.
I have a question about the tentative timeline.
Yes, sir.
It seems like we skipped over winter and spring, winter 2021 and spring 2022. That introduces kind of a long delay. Is there a reason for that?
Funding. I think funding has a lot to do with it. We know that we have a lot of projects in our parks that we'd like to get done, or in our community as general. To come up with a plan, not only do we have to come up with a plan, but also with the funding. So that funding had a lot to do with that gap. That if we came up with something, it would take us a certain amount of time to build up enough general fund revenue to do something and or look at other funding sources.
Okay.
And John, I just offer that this is just a draft proposed timeline. It may not follow this exact, this is just guidelines to trying to get us oriented.
Oh, no, and that's fine. I'm just, again, first impressions, I made a note to myself that it seemed like, you know, we've been hearing negative feedback about the park for a long time. And according to this, we're looking at construction of whatever is developed in 2023. So that's that's more time where, even though there's some short-term improvements, we're going to continue to have a substandard park, if you will. So I was just curious why that big gap in there, and if it's funding, then it's funding.
Thanks, John.
I look forward. I think I not only do I think, but I hope that once there's a committee and work starts on this, that this can be shortened, and that we can see, you know, results in a shorter time frame.
John, I totally positively agree with you. I fought really hard to be more conservative, but yeah, I hope we can do something sooner. At least if we have to do it in phases, we could start phasing it in, but.
Right, and that will fall out of a plan that's put together by the committee. So that's fine.
Yes. Yes,
Just
sir.
wanted to get a plug in there for, I'm tired of getting negative feedback.
I am too. I like that, John.
Danny, I have just a couple quick things. Thank you for doing this. It's good to get started, certainly. I do have one area that I'm concerned about a bit, and that's the makeup of the committee. I'd like to just throw a couple things out. When I looked at the makeup of the committee, there is a potential there that only 2 or 3 people on the committee would be year-round residents, the way that it's set up right now. I feel pretty strongly that there needs to be more year-round representation on that committee. We're pretty heavy on the DDA, and downtown business people are representatives, and the chamber, which are all great things. But I think some of our regular year-round residents that aren't on committees might be interested in being on this. So I'd like to see us open it up to, you know, some more year-round residents representation on this.
I think that is a great suggestion, Nancy.
Thanks.
So that's, I guess, one of the questions there is the number of committee members. And if we want to keep it at a manageable level, it's you know, 9 is kind of pushing it. But I wouldn't, as Nancy pointed out, we do have representation from downtown with the DDA as well as the chamber, from the economic development aspect of it. Perhaps we remove, this is a suggestion, a downtown business owner representative and make it two members of the public of year-round residents instead of just 1 year-round resident.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Victor, shouldn't somebody from the Harbor Commission be a part of this?
They're there.
We do have that right here.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. Yep, my bad. I didn't see it.
I think another thing that we maybe could think about is some of the board representations, the tree board, the one that jumps out at me, and the Harbor Commission. You know, maybe at least one of those should have to be a year-round resident rather than just someone from, it would be both. You know, would be a tree member who's a year-round resident, would be a Harbor Commission who's a year-round resident. I just feel really strongly that this committee could be very heavy with not year-round residents, and the city is going to spend city money on this. So I think we need to make sure we're represented on it.
This is Kathy Breitner entering from the DDA perspective. All of our 9 members are year-round residents.
But they're not in-town residents, are they, Kath?
No, because we're the anomaly on that one. But we have to either own property downtown or work downtown. So we're fairly well represented.
But it's not, and I understand that, and I certainly honor that, but it's not year-round tax-paying residents, which we tend to be a lot of these committees are that way. And I just think we need to be really sensitive to that when we're spending city money to do it.
I agree.
Thanks.
I'd like to get back to Victor's suggestion. I had the same thought, since we have strong representation and the DDA and the chamber actually represent all businesses. Why not take that position and have 2 year-round city residents? I like Victor's proposal.
Good one.
And I would like to see all of the members of this committee get along. I think it's that important.
To be what, Al? I didn't hear you.
Space, and I think that would be it.
Al, it's a little hard to hear you. Your voice is very weak.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think that all of the members of this committee should be year-round residents. If they're in city, out of city, doesn't matter. This is one that I think should be year-round resident. And I'm on the planning commission. We're in the middle of developing goals for the entire city, and this should sync with that effort somehow. And I don't see a link here for that.
That's a good point, Alan. I talked about that with Denny earlier about whether or not we should put a planning commission representative on there as opposed to perhaps a tree board chair. And nothing against the tree board, but the tree board we may not propose trees. I don't know. Maybe it could go to the tree board for a review by the if whatever plan is approved, it can go through the tree board. But if we're talking about doing anything other than putting, landscaping, which is much of this is probably going to be about, that a tree board member necessarily might not be, needed for that position. So a planning commission representative instead of a tree board representative might be a better fit.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And the tree board can always be a resource to the committee. I
Sure.
think they'd be very eager to participate.
Sure.
But having someone from the planning commission, I think, is a really good idea.
I do too.
Okay, so right now the changes I have are whoever is on, this is, we have not agreed to this, but this is what I've heard from public is planning commission instead of tree board member, instead of a downtown business owner, we have 2 year-round residents, two members of the public who aren't on any other boards right now. And then we have year-round residents to be on this committee regardless whether or not they are in town or out of town. That was from Al Dyka. And Nancy had made a suggestion that we should have more in-town year-round residents to be the majority of the board, at least the committee.
I like that idea.
I'll support that.
I think that would make for a stronger committee.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a good mix. And I especially like all the year-round residents. I think that'll make a big part of the decision process.
Okay, so then what I would propose is what I'll do is get a list. Denny and I will get this list together, and we'll probably. Oh, it looks like I got a chat from Kathy Breitner. These are public meetings open to all. Yes, these will be meetings open to the public. My proposal is we'll advertise this out on the city website for a couple of weeks to solicit any members of the public that want to serve on the board. And then we come back to council meeting on March 1st to officially appoint all the members of the committee. So that way this way we can reach out to the chairs of each of the board to see if they would like to serve or if they want a designee to serve. And then we can come back to council to formally appoint all those members. I do have a question from Sharon Mahalik on about how is this different than the current Harbor Commission plans? And the difference here, Sharon, is that the Harbor Commission plans are strictly for the building, what will happen with the Harbor Master building. This plan is to give an idea to what we want to do with the green space. So the Harbor Commission plans that they have for rebuilding that building in a new spot reorients the green space, but doesn't propose doing anything with the green space. And this committee will figure out what to do with that space, if anything at all.
Victor, can we make sure when we advertise for that we maybe also put something in the paper for folks that don't get on the website?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from council members or public?
I think there's a second question regarding definition of full-time resident.
It was right in front of me and I missed it. What is a full-time resident? Someone that has a residency in Harbor Springs? That's a good question. And Jeff Grimm, if he was here, he could attest to, how people use their principal residencies. But the definition we normally use is, or have used historically for serving on a board or commission, has been an elector. If you are you're considered a year-round resident, or we usually officially say it, you're an elector of the city. So you vote in the city. That usually distinguishes between someone who's year-round, but that's year-round isn't the best definition because there's people who live here year-round or several months, 9-10 months, but vote somewhere else sometimes. I don't know. Or they'll have their principal residency here, or it's a little complicated. We could clarify by saying either electors or stick with the year-round. It's up to council on that one.
Victor, here's just a little input on that. I think the only way to really be able to do that objectively is to use electors, because there's no other way. You're not going to go knocking on doors and find out if people are home. So that would be my suggestion. Is the folks.
So if you can run for council, you can.
Right.
You can serve on this committee.
Mm-hmm. That's my suggestion.
Yeah. And that follow-up comment from Sharon Mahalik, maybe clarify when they have their formal residency and vote in Harbor Springs. So, yep.
Basically
That's
the
the
same
plan.
idea, yeah.
Yep. I see no comments on YouTube, so council wants to officially vote on forming this committee, and then we can come back to appoint the members at March 1st meeting. Unless there's any other suggestions on changes to any part of this plan.
One last comment in the committee goals. There's a comment or exploring other options such as remodeling the current building. Now that would be the purview of the Harbor Commission, and in a kind of a deep rabbit hole to go down. Is that really what we want this committee to do?
Well, at this time, so we have a couple different things going on, right? We have the master plan process, which we have surveys out there asking people about what they would like to see there happen with the Harbor Master building. We have a representative of the Harbor Commission who's going to be on here. And the option, it comes down to, I guess if you're gonna call it a rabbit hole, is of funding. Really, what it comes down to, we might not be able to get that building funded in 5, 6, 7 years. And is that something that the Harbor Commission is gonna wanna recommend going with is waiting to get that funding to rebuild the building or not? And maybe this committee can explore that option based on if the Harbor Commission sees any opportunities to change that. But ultimately, again, that's a council decision. I mean, it is a Harbor Commission's domain, but council ultimately approves whether or not that building goes or doesn't go.
Right. The conversations that I remember of recent vintage are that we would assume that the new Harbor Commission building would be built, that it would be in the corner where it's scheduled to be, and we would start attacking the rest of the park. If we go back and start talking about the Harbor building again, this already protracted schedule is going to be longer.
I agree, Leo. And there's been a lot of time spent by the Harbor Commission coming to the conclusions they've come to about placement and what the facility should do.
Yeah.
And I think with respect to the facility, the Harbor Commission is the most knowledgeable group of all of our groups in town. So I'd hate to see that project or process start again. We've spent money on it. We looked at a whole bunch of different plans, and it was agreed by the Harbor Commission and the council at that time that this was the project to take forward.
You know, with lots of money, years and years worth of conversation. I'm concerned that if we go down that particular path, that we'll get stalled again.
I think one thing though we have to be, and I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with you too, but is that the surveys, some of the surveys are telling us something a little bit different at this point. I wasn't on council, I was around when you all were talking about it, but that was a fair number of years ago at this point. And the funding for it, as we all know, building costs have skyrocketed. So I think it's something that we at least have to take into consideration with this. Because I don't know what the outcome will be from the surveys and the planning commission when they decide on the master plan. But I think we have to be open to that there might need to be some change to that plan.
And I can clarify
reasons.
And council, I can clarify what we meant by that first goal. The goal wouldn't be for the committee to, the committee's purpose wouldn't be to explore whether or not the building should be remodeled. It would be to look at how to use the green space if the building isn't built there permanently. And that would be just another backup option if it doesn't go through, because frankly, we're talking about building a new building, which I think a lot of people have support, but we're having difficulty finding where we're going to get that money and how long we're going to get that money. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that we need to find from both the waterfront funds as well as the general fund. And that's not including the cost of the park itself, whatever we do with the park. So basically what we'd be doing is planning for a space that may not come to fruition for another 5, 7, 8, 9 years. And that's fine, but I think it'd be prudent to also potentially have some backup options in case that building does not go up.
Okay, that is a completely different approach than I think what I read into here, or exploring other options. It's just remodeling current building. If the development of the plan for the park includes an option, should that corner not be used for a new building, that to me is very appropriate for the committee to talk about. Not what the resolution should be. That should be a parallel effort by the Harbor Commission tied into the master plan, et cetera, et cetera. So with what you just said, Victor, I have no problem.
Okay. We'll clarify that in the committee, because yeah, it's not the committee's purpose to figure out what to do with the building. That's Harbor Commission and the council's purpose, but the committee is going to need to know, we're going to need to have those options available to design the space. So it'd be good to have backup options just in case.
Got it.
I'll make that clarification.
Thank you.
Any other questions or thoughts? Nothing on YouTube.
No, I think it's well thought out plan. We should move forward with it.
I agree.
I guess if we need a motion, I'll make a motion that we move forward with the Marina Park Committee.
I'll second.
Don Leo,
Yes.
Nancy Rondell,
Yes.
Al Dyka,
Yes.
John Cops,
Yes.
Matt Bulgara,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. And we'll get working on that advertisement for resident electors to serve on the committee. And Denny will reach out to the boards as well, the chairs of the boards, to see if they're willing to serve. Moving on to item C, This is on the Kiwanis Park Sled Hill usage, an update. Thanks to the trail cam that was provided and some more work by Denny, we were able to gather some statistics on the usage at the Sled Hill. I'll let Denny explain what he did, but I just want you guys to keep in mind that the data that was collected was for about 4 weeks in January. It was only taking users of the Sled Hill, not of the park in total. It was only on select times on the weekends and in the weekdays. So it wasn't Saturday all day long. It was Saturday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. and Sunday from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. So it didn't capture all the people that are using the Sled Hill. And it was also obviously taken before our snowstorm. So before a lot of the sledders actually got out there. But it gives you a good snapshot of what we would have in a weaker winter, I guess, during certain times. So Denny, if you want to go over a little bit your memo and the statistics you found out.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Victor. So I took the suggestion from council and tried to capture some information, some statistics for us for planning purposes. It was a little bit more difficult than I thought, only because I set up a trail cam and I did it for like 8 hours, but then I had to watch 8 hours of film to try and get, how many sledders there were. So then I broke it down to what I thought were peak times. And these are very, I would say, under projected numbers, but I did the best I could with what I had. It is a very popular place for a lot of people that live here year round. What was really striking is something we already really knew. But probably the coolest thing about it is there's a lot of families there, which is, kind of awesome. There wasn't just a situation where people drop their kids off like they do sometimes at City Beach. There was a lot of families there participating and a lot of fun. And I think Nick brought this up before in some of our discussions, is that unlike the ice rink that just started opening up when we were able to create ice, if you have just a couple of inches of snow, kids will show up to sled. But anyways, these are the figures I have. I think it's a pretty popular place, and it's something that really promotes family time and year-round recreation. And I did the best I could to capture the numbers, and I'm sure they're probably lower than they really are, but I wanted to get something for our discussion today. Any questions or thoughts?
No, well done.
Yeah. Maybe another option for counting is to get, I don't know, if Kyle could borrow a car counter from the county or something, how they set up the 2 little rubber pipes across the road and track how much vehicular traffic goes up there.
And I could just tell you that it sure would be nice if we could open that building up for the public to have bathrooms, a place to warm up. I know probably it might not be cost efficient to do that, just to have that building open. But if we did have a program there where we had a tow rope or something and we had staff there, it would be a pretty awesome thing for our community to be able to offer that and a place for people to warm up. And I hope that one day we can make that happen.
Kyle, can you try speaking again? I saw your mouth moving a little earlier, but didn't hear anything. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you.
Me?
No, Kyle.
Kyle.
It's Kyle. You want to come over on this side of the building?
Thanks for clarifying that. I kind of felt like I talked too much.
No. It's just Kyle was going to answer the question about whether
the car counter, which was a good thought. I actually thought of that. I just
That'd be good in the summer. I don't think we could use it up there in the winter to get a count for. But
I would think some of the kids would walk. from up top too. I think, I don't know that, but I would think some of the older kids would walk over there with sleds too.
You know, if we really started to promote some winter activity there, how cool would it be to do like a snowshoe frisbee golf? How cool would it be to have like a fire pit there on weekends? We have a fire going so people can warm up. There's a lot of ways we can go to really promote this time of year activities outdoors for kids.
Yep, that's a great idea. Kyle just came here, so Kyle, if you want to,
The car counters would get taken out by our snowplow. Like the 2 rubber strips every time a snowplow went up the hill.
Okay.
We
Right.
need some type of electronic mounting device on a tree or pole.
Right.
That would work. The car counters with the 2 rubber strips would be good in the winter. In the summer, we could use them, but not in the winter.
Right.
Okay, I got an, so Kyle's right. They do have those electronic eyes that can count cars. I think it might be worthwhile for us maybe to invest in that, because like we could use it on like the boardwalk to like really get good figures of how many people are using it. So if we were to purchase something like that, we'd be able to use it in other areas to gather statistics to help us do planning and organizing.
Something to look into.
Something to look into.
I'm gonna look into.
I was wondering if you could continue your monitoring through February. You know, we've got the snow now, and I know that there are a lot more people using it than there were in January. I watch it from my shop, and I'm sure John does too.
Yeah.
And it's fun to watch, but I know it's more active now, and I think you might get better numbers.
Sure, if you want me to do it, you can count on it. I'll do it.
And it looks like it's the weekends where it's the busiest.
Yeah, sure.
So even a weekend count would be good.
Yep.
Hey, you're doing
and-
good, Denny. I mean,
Thanks.
something's better than nothing. So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
And we may have an opportunity, and this is not an absolute guarantee, but I know Molly Baker has suggested to me, I had a phone call with her about getting some of the students involved in a project, potentially analyzing either Kiwanis Park or even Marina Park, but we prefer Kiwanis Park here to see how it could be used better and how it would be a better spot for kids. So that might be something, they would present that information to council. So it might coincide with us, monitoring this area to figure out how many people are using it and what they're using it for. So that's just an idea that was thrown out, but it's not for sure, but just something to help us build up our data there.
And thank you, Victor, for mentioning that, because it's been something that's been on my plate for a long time. Is as we go forward with planning for our parks and green spaces and recreation in our community, I think it's very important that we get the ideas and the needs of some of the youth in our community. And I was hoping by now that I would have taken an opportunity to meet with some of the kids at the high school and the middle schools, to actually be able to talk to them and find out like what kind of recreation are they into and what kind of things can we do to improve recreation opportunities. But unfortunately with COVID, it's kind of messed up that plan. So I'm thinking of other ways, because we really need their opinion and their thoughts about what we need to do to move forward, which also coincides with Marina Park. So I'm trying to think of different ways I can interface with the kids. If I can't meet with them, face to face, that I might create a survey to send to the high schools. Of course, I would work with the administration at the schools for the high school and the middle school, and maybe the elementary, with just not a complicated thing, but something just like, what do you like that we're doing? What would you like to see? Or what is your favorite thing to do? I think that information would be valuable for us to move forward in planning for recreation in Harbor Springs, including Marina Park, and including, like Victor mentioned, and I've been collaborating with Molly on some other ideas to make sure that their voices are being heard. I just want to let the council know that it's something that I think about every day and something that I'm working on, because it's important to all of us.
Thank you, Denny. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Victor. Appreciate it.
So no decision needs to be made here, but I think this is just an update. And when we get more information, we can start delving a little bit more into, planning for Kiwanis Park. But at this point, we just want to give councils some more regular updates about what we're finding.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Denny.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Moving on to item 3D. Dog leash ordinance review. So after last meeting, I believe, council kind of just directed me to review or present our current ordinances on on leashing dogs and control over dogs in public spaces. And what I did in this memo here was presented what our language in our code says, and we basically have two spots about animals on public property. One is very briefly in 30.101, which says a dog or a pet under an owner's control cannot run at large in a public place. And then we have section 60.110, which talks about a dog that is not under the direct control must be leashed. So if you see item 60.110D, it says in the case of a dog or cat only, when there is direct visual and audible contact between the pet and the owner, and the pet is so obedient to the owner's command that the pet does not run from the owner, trespass on others' property, or annoy or disturb persons in the proximity of the owner and the pet. That's when a pet does not have to be leashed. So, or that's what we mean by direct control, I should say. So at first glance, when I was reading this, it seemed like there might be a conflict between 30.101 and 60.110 because 31.01 says dog cannot run at large, while 60.110 says a dog can be off leash. And so I don't think, however, that being off leash and running at large are necessarily the same thing. If an off leash dog is still obedient to an owner's command, then it's necessarily not running at large. And so that was one discrepancy I found that I actually wasn't really a discrepancy in my mind after I thought about it a little bit more. But at the last meeting, the resident who made this public comment talked about Michigan state law. So I just did a little bit further research and found Michigan state law on leashing dogs. And this is a very old law, but it says that essentially any owner cannot allow its dog to stray unless held properly in leash. So there's a question of whether or not this means that dogs must be on a leash, as dogs under the voice command of their owners are not necessarily or always straying. And the definition of straying is moving away aimlessly from the right course or path. So you can have dogs on a leash that are straying, but you can also have dogs that are off leash that are not straying if they're under the voice command. So I took it further and looked at some surrounding cities ordinances on dogs and how they implement their leash laws. Petoskey essentially cites state law as their law. Charlevoix requires dogs to be on leashes and under the control of the owner, while East Jordan has similar language to Harbor Springs, which says a dog shall be considered under reasonable control of some person or owner if on a leash or within the beck and call of such a person or the owner. I'm doing some more research too. I also talked with Jim Raymer about this a little bit, but Michigan state law is rarely enforced on this, and it's usually local ordinances that prevail anyway. That Michigan state law is very old and it hasn't been used much recently, but it still is on the books. I also asked Kyle, who has some data here that he got from me, Chief Knight, about dog complaints and incidences, and so I'll let him just speak briefly onto what he found.
I went back to 2017 and basically started there, did like 5 categories: running at large, complaints we received. This is all data through our central dispatch. Found dogs, where somebody found a dog, so basically it'd be a lost dog, or excuse me, a dog that came onto somebody else's property. A lost dog, somebody who called our department to report a lost dog. Dog bites, and then family dog bites, because we get both of those. We get if let's say I have a dog and at my house, my dog bites me, and it goes to ER, they're obligated to call us and report a dog bite. So I went through all those. Our dogs running at large, which is primarily with the leash law, In 2017, we had 7 of them. 2018, we had 11 of them. In 2019, we had 17. 2020, we had 19. And so far this year, we've had 2. Dog bite complaints, which is like a critical one, would be every year up till this year, we've had 2 every year. That's information from through Central Dispatch. Family dog bites is sort of irrelevant. We've had a couple the first year and then 1. We actually had 1 this year already. So reviewing the data, the numbers have increased a little bit of running at large complaints. Now, when you take that running at large, like I could be walking, for example, down Pine Street, and if a dog's on its own property, it doesn't have to be leashed. It just has to be under control. So if that dog comes off their property and scares somebody or comes up to the edge of the property, somebody might call and say that's a dog at large, but necessarily it's on its own property. So it sort of comes down to whether we enforce the leash law or how we handle it. I talked to Steve Timmons. He's been here for the longest of anybody, 36 years, you know, and I asked him today, I says, how many, do you think we have more dogs now than we did in the past? And we both, he agrees that we have a lot more dogs in town. And if you go down to the farmer's market, I mean, by the grace of God, we don't have dog bites with leash dogs at the farmer's market, because if you go down to the farmer's market on a given Saturday, there's probably 40 dogs that walk through that farmer's market on a given Saturday. Every one of them is leashed, but I spend a lot of time down there, and periodically those leashed dogs go after each other. And not every dog likes another dog. So in the meantime, the handlers are trying to get involved and to get their dogs apart from each other. And by the grace of God, we don't have more bites down there with leash dogs. So that's where we're at. The number wise, I'll answer any questions that you guys might have.
Yep.
The one thing I'll say, the one thing I'll say is that it's one of those things where we're complaint driven on this. We don't drive around town and look for people that have their dogs off a leash. If we see something where just see a dog running down the street, we know it's a stray, we'll pick it up. We bring it in here to our lockup, and then we work really good with Laura Gladue from the animal control shelter, or the animal control officer for Emmett County. I reached out to her today, spoke with her about how they handle these leash law violations. She said most of their complaints are on the conservancies and also the city parks, the county parks, and that they go basically on 2 strikes. If somebody gets called and then they get called back, they don't write on the first offense. They give somebody a chance. If the person's basically is not compliant with the law and continues that non-compliancy, then she'll write a ticket. But very seldom does she say she writes a ticket under the state law. So that's what I have.
Thank you, Kyle, Chief Knight. And so based on that information, based on a comparison, I don't see at this time a need to change the ordinance unless council wants to require dogs be leashed. As I mentioned earlier, the law it varies from municipality to municipality. So really at this point, it's really a council preference on whether they want to change that law. It seems like we don't have too many serious issues, especially when it comes to dog bites. I mean, obviously any dog bites not good, but 2 a year is very low for a town our size and with the kind of traffic we see in the summer, especially. So that's my recommendation. I don't see a pressing need to change this, but I'll leave that up to council. It would be a simple change if council wanted to change it.
Well, given that the police department is responsible for enforcement, I'm curious if Chief Knight feels that there's a reason to change the ordinance that he has to enforce now.
No, the law's there. Basically, the law's in place. If we would it would be council's opinion on how they wants to enforce. If he wants to be more aggressive, or the stance that council takes in this. It's just like speeding, for example. I'll use an analogy, is like if going 5 over on Lake Street, does council want us to stop everybody for going 5 over, or do we want a threshold of 10 over or 1 over? It's sort of like this. I'll tell you this, if we get multiple complaints, we will write a citation. I've looked back I looked through a lot of calls in the last couple of days to review to get these numbers. And there's a couple people that I'll take responsibility. Maybe we should have wrote them a ticket. They need a warning, or they need a citation as a reminder. And there's one individual that we have reached out to and wrote a citation. And if it happens again, if it's myself or whomever, we're going to write her another citation. But as far as the blatant people that are obviously violent, I don't see it.
Okay. Thank you.
I think the law as written is effective. It's just council wants us to enforce it.
I just have a question. I have to tell you, I'm not a dog person. I don't have a dog. That's fine. But what is the issue with asking people to put their dog on a leash on the public sidewalk or the public street? Why are we so hesitant to do that? Can somebody help me with this?
I'll answer. The majority, if you look at the majority of the people that walk their dog, the majority of these complaints are not the people who are walking their dog. The majority of the dogs are leashed. It's these dogs ran at large is, let's say somebody has a dog and all of a sudden their dog leaves their property and goes to somebody else's property. That's the complaints that we get. All these are not, I mean, I drive around town all the time. The majority of the people that walk dogs, their dogs are leashed. The example of Mrs. Williams, the lady who came here, hers was the fact that the dog was at their residence. Their daughter was coming home from school. The dog owner let the dog out of the house to go see the daughter. Mrs. Williams happened to be in between. So it's not the fact that somebody's walking their dog down the sidewalk without a leash. It's the fact that the dog was at its rightful house and seen the daughter coming down the street, ran to the daughter. Mrs. Williams is in between the two. She gets startled, steps back and falls. It's not an attack on Mrs. Williams. It was the fact that unfortunately she was between the daughter and the dog and the home. So this complaint, like you see it, Ms. Rondell, is the majority of people that walk down Zoll Street with a dog, they're leashed. I mean, I don't see hardly anybody walking a dog not on a leash. It's most of these are driven off.
I agree with you, Kyle. Almost all of them are on a leash, except when they're in the park. And the park by you guys, by the police across the street from here, occasionally a dog who someone's throwing a Frisbee through will take off after another dog or a person that's walking. That's a legitimate complaint. If they're off leash and they're not controlled, then I think it's a legitimate complaint. But I agree with you that almost everybody I see walking dogs, the dog is on a leash. So, I guess I would think we need to enforce it. I mean, the dog beach is a whole nother issue where dogs are definitely not under control of their owners. And someday we need to take a look at that, because that's a dangerous situation, I think, down there with kids. But I think I'm okay with this as long as we can enforce it if we need to. Like you said, if someone, has a dog that 3 times was run off their property after someone, then we should write them a ticket for that.
And I, just so you know, when I was at where I came from, I was in charge of animal control for 12 years down there. So for a whole county. So I've seen very bad dog bites. We've had to take enforcement action where we actually had to take a dog away from twice the last year away from people because they're vicious dogs. If we have that situation here, I'm not hesitant to take that response. And we're going to have a department meeting here soon and we'll discuss this enforcement. And I'm good with the ordinance the way it is.
Me too.
Okay.
Thanks, Kyle.
Yep.
Thanks.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Leave it the way it is.
Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about enforcement tomorrow at our department head meeting, and then we'll keep monitoring the situation.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Kyle.
Moving on to the last agenda item, and that is the logo design options review. So I know this has been a long process, but it's been informative, really. I remember we started this as a community input project, and we received a lot of community input about this throughout the first year and a half or so. And when we went to council last time, the recommendation was to do a redo modification of the current logo and get some more options from a professional. So that's what I did, is I contacted a professional that did the decals on our police vehicles, I believe. They're based out of Traverse City and Petoskey. They're called Pro Image. And they provided 6 options, and I'll scroll down to those options for the public soon, but you saw the 6 options, and they've asked us to narrow the choices down to 2 with things we like about those 2 options and things we don't like, and then they'll redo those or touch them up based on our comments, and then come back to council with a final approval or decision on which logo they want to go with, or if they just still want to stick with the current existing logo based on what you have here. So as you've seen, a few different options. So there was obviously here option number 2 was similar to a couple that we've received from some of the community responses, similar design. And then option 3 and 4. Option 3 is a lighthouse, which is really more of a Harbor Point thing, but it's there. Option 4 is sort of like a shield badge type of thing. And option 5 and 6 are both retakes of the existing logo. Slight difference, option 5 had 3 trees, kind of similar to the current logo's trees, whereas our option 6 has a forest in the background. There is a saw. It's flipped the other way to kind of also form a double purpose as a saw, as well as a kind of hilly land. There's the boat. There's a settled in 1829. We got rid of the teepee. We got rid of the stars. But one of the big concerns too is a small illegible font of the current logo. And so we made the Harbor Springs, Michigan larger. So those are the 6 options. My 2 favorite were option 5. It's very similar to the one we have, but modernized, and option 2, which focuses more on the downtown and the water, but is still, I think, pretty neat looking. So I guess I'll leave it to the council to decide those questions is which 2, if you want to go with, would be your 2 favorite that we can go back to the pro image with, and anything you like or don't like about them. So maybe we want to start one by one. Maybe we'll start just with the mayor if you want to go first and just work our way down.
All right. I like option 5. And I like option 5.
Option 5.
And I think, the colors and the size are all good. It's, that's the one I like.
Okay, moving next. Let's do this alphabetical. John Cups.
First choice was 5, second choice was 2, like you. So I like the redo of the original logo.
Okay. Aldica.
5. And only 5.
5 and only 5. And let's go with John Leo.
First choice would be option 2. Second choice would be option 5.
All right, Nancy Rondell, are you going to be the wild card here? Or are you...
I'm not sure I need to even vote on this. Actually, I like 5 and 6. So
5 and 6.
Yeah, either one of those, I think.
So based on that, then I'd say the 2, we can go back to them with our 5 and 2, and then let them touch those up, and then have a final vote at the next council meeting. There's any things you would want to change about 5 or 2? I know, Matt, you said the colors were good, but just any suggestions what you like and don't like?
No, I think they're both good designs. So.
I mean, clearly they have some experience designing things. The fonts are good, the colors are good, the lines are crisp. So yeah, I think they're really good.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the fact they've just refreshed our current logo that we've had for decades. So yeah, go with it.
All right, well, then that's what I'll wait. We do have a comment from the gallery.
So you got a comment from Karen.
Yep, and she asked, was there any thought given to a reference to winter in Harbor Springs important to snow sports? I'm not sure if a thought was given to it. I mean, it wasn't really mentioned much in the surveys that we got back. There was just a general idea of having nature, trees, and the water.
And I don't remember any of the samples that we've seen way back when had any kind of winter stuff to them.
Yes, they asked the designers if they can put a little snow in the pine trees.
But then we'd have to put ice on the water too.
Yeah, put an ice boat out there instead of a
sailboat. Put one of those ice boats out there, yeah.
I'll see if they can do a subtle hint to winter, if it's possible. I'll check on YouTube if there's any comments. No comments on YouTube. So unless there's any other questions or comments, we can move on. Okay, well, thanks, council. We'll get back to you in a few weeks on this one. So the next item is, as I mentioned, pushed off to March 1st meeting. It'll be an update in closed session on the current active lawsuits. So I'll move on to the manager's report now. And the solar project, we have submitted the application for the permit to the county. They're probably going to do some sort of just general structural inspection, just to ensure that the roofs can withhold that weight of the solar panel system. We did install an entry access system to City Hall doors, which allow city staff to lock and unlock doors remotely through a computer software program. We can have the doors open and close on schedules. This is especially helpful for staff are coming in and out, and also keeping track of people coming in and out that use our city council chambers outside normal hours, such as church groups, the Boy Scouts, AA, other groups, community groups that often use our council chambers when there's no COVID going on. So when we reopen these council chambers to the public, that we will be able to give them a fob that gives them limited time access to the building, and we'll be able to keep track. And it's just a way to ensure that, things are, if something does happen here, we have a way of knowing who may have been responsible for it. And this also just gives us ease of access for staff and controlling the system. So it's an upgrade that's going to go a long way for us. Online payments, so we are able to take residents' tax bills payments online, but our online utility payments between the two software companies, there's been some sort of incompatibility between Civic software, which we currently have, and then Invoice Cloud, which has this program of collecting the payments. So they're trying to figure out where that incompatibility is, and resolving that as soon as possible. So we're very hopeful that I'll get up soon. But the taxes have been on. Some people have been paying their bills online. They've been, paying the extra fee, and which is fine. A lot of these people normally sometimes would have paid using the county's website, and so instead of going to the county, they're just using our city website to pay for it. So far we haven't any major glitches with the tax bills payment system. We've had a few here and there, but we figured those out, and it seems to be working smoothly. Kyle also, Chief Knight, want to let you all know that all of our police department staff have had both vaccines, both shots, both doses of the vaccine. So our police have all had their vaccines. DPW, certain DPW members will be going up shortly here as they're considered in the next the critical infrastructure in the 1B phase. So they'll be coming up next to get some of their vaccine shots.
Yeah, just to note, Victor, 2/3 of the fire department has had them as well. So.
Okay, that's good. John. And some just meetings. The DDA had a meeting. They discussed the Ice Fest. We also talked about the Marina Park Committee, and they also discussed some of their upcoming projects. Planning Commission had quite a lengthy meeting two Thursdays ago, I should say, about the master plan survey results, and we'll continue reviewing those master plan survey results, as well as looking at our goals and objectives and how we can incorporate any edits based on those survey results into our master plan. And as you see, I had a bunch of MPPA meetings in the past couple weeks, generally standard stuff there. So any questions from anyone on any updates or issues? Nope.
Nope.
A note, I've been on auto pay for my residential utility bills with the city for a couple of months now, and it's working well.
Okay. Thanks, Al.
Sure.
We have a comment from the public, I believe. Who is this from? From Margot. On behalf of the DDA, thank you to council, city staff, Chief Knight, and Chief Cups for allowing the trial of fire pits in Marina Park. They were well received and used by many people throughout the weekend. Also, thank you to everyone, Denny, Lucas, DPW, for helping to make Ice Fest a very successful weekend. It was a nice weekend. I got to go out and walk around. It was good. Thanks, Margot. All right, that's all I have. So Mayor, if you want to go on, I don't think we have boards and commissions, so.
Yeah, no appointments tonight, so I guess it's new and old business. Anyone at the table?
Not
Not
me.
right.
No? All quiet? Very good. I don't have anything, so I guess I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.